Welcome to another round of coffee and donuts where I answer your law enforcement hiring questions in full detail. If you don't know who I am, I'm Frank McCaha, a former federal law enforcement officer and now a full-time law enforcement instructor. I got 3 great questions. Let's jump right in. Let's discuss. First question, great video. What are your thoughts on starting as a community service officer or CSO and working your way up to becoming a sworn officer? Do you have a video covering this topic? Thanks, and keep up the amazing work. First of all, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me and the entire team. I will pass that along to them. I think we do have some videos where I've referenced CSOs, and for those that don't know what a CSO is, a community service officer is an individual that goes out there and does other tasks that law enforcement normally do, something outside of the realm of law enforcement. Sometimes it's even, parking enforcement. Sometimes they do get a little bit into those avenues. Other times they're responding to maybe mental crisis or maybe even medical crisis, something where if law enforcement is short-staffed, they can kind of not pick up the slack but assist. Right? It's a great way. You get a lot of experience. It is a really good way to do it. There's some ways to do it, and like I said, I think I've done some videos on this. I know we've definitely talked about this a bunch in our community live calls, but for this, it just depends. And here's what I would tell you: I wouldn't apply to another position, especially if you're already working and you have significant work history there. I wouldn't apply to another position as a stepping stone unless you absolutely had to. So what could that look like? Maybe you're 18 and you're ineligible for becoming a law enforcement officer. Maybe you've had a speeding ticket recently, or maybe you had a hurdle, or you want to separate yourself, give yourself some time and distance from substance such as marijuana. Maybe at that point in time I would look at a CSO position, or any type of position that could correlate to law enforcement. But I wouldn't leave a job that I'm at for a long time, that I have good rapport at, I've never been written up, to go pursue another position to try and get experience, because that's not what they're looking for. One of the things that they're really looking for when it comes to employment, experience is nice and it really helps you articulate during the interviews, and say even during a psych interview, a background or an oral or chief's interview. That's true. But one thing that's really critical here is the fact that work history, good work history. So if you've been at a job for more than 2 years and you've never been reprimanded, and and that supervisor will give you a good recommendation, you're actually taking a hit to go pursue another position, even if it is a CSO position, which would be very good, tangible experience. I'm not saying that. But if you're starting off and you're saying, hey, I have time before I want to apply, I want to get some more experience under my belt, even if you're 21 and you're saying, I don't want to apply till, say, I'm 23, right, and I have a chance to go work as a CSO, then I would take that. But I would not leave a perfectly good job right now where I have experience in it, I have time in there. I wouldn't leave that to go pursue that just to gain experience, unless you absolutely had to. If you were told multiple times by departments that said, hey, you just, you've worked at, in a fast food industry, and we just don't feel like you have enough experience to compete with these other candidates, maybe I would go pursue something like that. But you really have to weigh out your options for that change, because the biggest hit. Now, if you've only been working at a job for 6 months and you say, hey, I want to get into a better job, something that helps propel me towards my career in law enforcement, then that's fine. And then you'll just explain that when you get there. Hey, why did you leave this job after 6 months? I had the opportunity to go CSO. I knew my ultimate goal was always to pursue law enforcement, so I wanted to kind of work hand in hand with the city or the county or the state, and I wanted to be able to work hand in hand with local law enforcement, and to get your name in front of them, because you'll kind of be working with the department. So that's a huge bonus too. But if you just say, hey, I've been working as a CSO for 2 months and then applied to law enforcement, it's not going to look good. It's not going to be a big benefit. We'll put it that way. All right, next question. So would it look good to only apply to one department showing that I'm very interested, or would it be better to apply to more than one while trying to get hired? For anyone that's watched any of my content for a period of time, I always say apply to your top 3 departments, because it's easy to articulate that you're still only applying to the departments you truly feel that you could benefit. Right? That's easy to articulate if it ever gets asked, instead of saying, hey, yeah, I've applied to 12 departments. Oh, well, what makes me think that you really want ours? Oh, well, because I really do. No, at that point in time, no one's going to believe you. You applied to 12 departments. It's that old mindset of just shotgun your resume out there and see what department picks up. And that used to work in the past, 20 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. That was still kind of a practice, but no, not anymore. Departments are struggling to keep officers because of new lateral programs and things like that. The last thing they want is an officer that's going to jump ship. They want someone that has more loyalty because they don't want to have to spend the money to go through the hiring process again. It costs a lot more money to get a new officer hired than it does to just employ an officer year after year. So I would watch out for that. As for just applying to one department, you put yourself in a predicament because if you just apply to one department at a time, which is why I say through three, let's say the average hiring process is 6 to 8 months, right? Thankfully, we've seen our members get hired significantly quicker in about 4 months, but the average individual, right, is 6 to 8 months. Let's just give you the benefit of the doubt and say 6-month hiring process. Well, you go through the hiring process. Let's say you make it all the way to the end. Maybe you don't do well in the psych, or maybe you just don't get selected because there's more qualified applicants and there's only so many academy billets. Well, you don't get selected. That's 6 months gone, wasted, that you weren't getting paid. Okay, so say you apply to another agency and same thing happens. Maybe you go 5-6 months with that agency and same thing. You don't get selected. Well, then say you go with your third agency and that agency picks you up after a 6-month hiring process. Well, you just spent 18 months trying to get hired, where that's 18 months you could have been starting your career, you could have been through the academy, possibly through FTO, and you could have actually learned and been out there assisting your community. I wouldn't recommend it. And take that from someone who's both self-sponsored themselves through the academy and who's been sponsored through the academy. I'd rather you be sponsored, get in with a department, and at least if you have 3 in rotation at all times, you're never starting from ground zero, because I've seen a lot of people, a lot of candidates have to take some time off or just stop completely because they just went through all that. They only had one department, and it takes some real grit to start a 6-month hiring process all over again when you're feeling depressed that a department just told you no. But those are the ones that succeed. All right, next question. I just got a disqualification letter from LVMPD. It's a hard agency to get hired with. We've had a couple candidates get picked up with them. They're a very hard agency to get hired with, very detailed agency. Don't know why yet. I sent them an email asking what I can do to improve on, so waiting for a response. They gave me a 2-year DQ. Okay, so understand this. I've said this before as well. Departments don't have to tell you why they don't select you or disqualify you. Matter of fact, there's laws that prevent them from having to tell you. So you can ask, and maybe you'll get lucky, and a background investigator might give you some inside tips. But once again, you don't even know if it's true. They might just be telling you something that's super generic, or something that they can find real quick on you that will just get you to leave them alone, right? So it's hard to know what to trust. I will say that. Now, because imagine this, we got 30 positions available for the academy on this cycle. We had 400 applicants. We narrowed that down to 120 applicants. We interviewed 60 of them. We picked up 30. Now I'm getting 30 emails from people saying, "Hey, why wasn't I picked up? Why was I disqualified? What happened?" I'm not going to answer, and if I do answer them, it's just to get them to leave me alone, right? So there's that concept right there that happens. I disagree with it, but it does happen, right? Everyone's still human. Human error still exists. So I guess with this, there's not really a question here. It's more of a statement. But what I will tell you is you can wait 2 years and reapply. Now, I'm not a big fan of reapplying to departments that have disqualified somebody because you already have a negative connotation with them. 2-year DQ, if that's a standard DQ for them, which I think it is for that specific department. It's a long time. Yeah, some time had passed, and some positions might switch around, and maybe they won't remember you, but they will still have everything you did on file before. So if you change anything to try and properly articulate, they're going to be questioning why you changed it, and then you're going to have to articulate that as well. So, which you're going to have to do anyway, but they're going to be a little bit more specific on it because they have the direct statements that you filled out and said. I would look at and I understand in that area. I don't know if you're local or applying as an out-of-state candidate, but I know in that area, you're limited to the departments. You got LVMPD, you got North Vegas, and you got um, I can't remember a third. I want to say Howard, but I don't think that's correct. But anyway, you got those really three main departments in that area of Nevada, and everyone applies to those three departments. When I say, hey, apply to your top three, those are your only three. They're not your only three, but you get what I'm saying. Those are the three that everyone applied to. So they all talk to one another. I know that from personal experience. Every single recruiter over there knows every other recruiter at every other department. So North Vegas, LVMPD, and man, it's driving me insane. I can't remember the third department's name, but yeah, they all know each other. They all talk. I've seen it multitude of times, and I've seen it happen with a lot of candidates I've helped too. So keep that in mind. But your best bet is you can apply to the other ones. Just know they're going to know everything that was said to the first department. Everything, if it's those three departments. If not, you can start looking at other kind of county sheriffs that farther out, or you can even start looking at out of state. If you're already an out of state individual, start looking, and you're willing to relocate to different states. Start looking at other areas. And I understand families, everything like that matter, but it's a big world out there. There's a lot of law enforcement departments that need good candidates. So don't just limit yourself, in my professional opinion. All right. I hope this helps. Down below, we have our website, which is armagonct.com, ARMOGANCT.com. On there, we have a bunch of different free trainings, a bunch of different events that come up. That's where you can see it there. We also have Ellie, our new AI law enforcement consultant over there, specialist. She can answer some questions for you that you might have. She was programmed by me and the team, so you can ask some questions to her. She might be able to answer them for you. But I hope this helped. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.